Article 410.16 states that fluorescent lighting fixtures shall not be installed in closed closets. Article 90.1b provides that listings shall not cover installation in locations not covered by the product's listing. Now, let's evaluate the lighted closet rod, the product in question. It is a fluorescent lighting fixture installed in a closed closet. As per Article 410.16, this installation is generally not permitted. However, the product may be listed for use in closed closets, which would then override the general prohibition in Article 410.16. Therefore, the most important thing is to obtain the underwriter's laboratories, or all listing file for the product to verify if it is specifically listed for installation in closed closets. If the product is listed, it may be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. If the product is not listed, it should not be installed in a closed closet. Installing a lighted closet rod with a fluorescent bulb inside in a closed closet may be permissible if the product is UL listed for this purpose. However, if the product is not listed, it should not be installed in a closed closet due to the safety concerns outlined in Article 410.16. Here is a more detailed breakdown. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, serves as a comprehensive guide for electrical installations, setting the standard for safety and proper practices. When considering a lighted closet rod, especially one incorporating a fluorescent bulb, several articles within the NEC become relevant. These articles aim to prevent hazards and ensure installations meet specific safety requirements. Article 410 addresses lighting fixtures, lamp holders, lamps, and receptacles. Within this article, Section 410.16 specifically deals with the type of lighting permitted in closed closets. The general rule outlined in Article 410.16 is that fluorescent lighting fixtures shall not be installed in closed closets. This prohibition stems from concerns about potential fire hazards due to the close proximity of flammable materials such as clothing to the heat generated by fluorescent fixtures. This rule is not arbitrary but a carefully considered safety measure. However, the NEC is not intended to be inflexible. Article 90, which covers the introduction to the code, addresses the purpose, scope, enforcement, and rules for adoption. Specifically, Article 90.1b clarifies the relationship between product listings and the NEC. This section emphasizes that product listings do not automatically cover installations in locations not explicitly included in the product's listing. In other words, just because a product is UL listed does not mean it can be installed anywhere. The listing is only valid for the specific applications and conditions outlined in the listing itself. When evaluating a lighted closet rod with a fluorescent bulb, it is crucial to determine whether the product is specifically listed for installation inside a closed closet. If the product is listed, the listing effectively overrides the general prohibition in Article 410.16, as the listing would indicate that the product has been tested and found safe for that specific application. However, if the product is not listed for closet installation, then the prohibition in Article 410.16 applies, and the installation would not be permitted. So, what steps should be taken to ensure compliance and safety? Firstly, obtain the UL listing file for the specific product. This file provides detailed information about the product's intended use, limitations, and any specific installation instructions. The UL listing file can typically be obtained from the manufacturer or from UL directly. Secondly, carefully review the UL listing file to determine whether the product is specifically listed for installation in closed closets. Look for language that explicitly allows closet installation or for a listing standard that covers such applications. Thirdly, if the product is listed for closet installation, follow the manufacturer's instructions precisely. These instructions will provide specific guidance on how to install the product safely and in compliance with the listing requirements. Fourthly, if the product is not listed for closet installation, do not install it in a closed closet. Installing a product in a manner not covered by its listing is a violation of the NEC and can create a significant safety hazard. To summarize, installing a lighted closet rod with a fluorescent bulb inside a closed closet may be permissible if the product is UL listed for that specific purpose. However, without such a listing, the installation is not permitted due to safety concerns outlined in Article 410.16. Always prioritize safety and compliance with the NEC when making electrical installations. Let's delve deeper into the nuances of NEC Article 410 and its implications for lighting installations, particularly focusing on closet lighting. Article 410, as mentioned before, is dedicated to lighting fixtures, lamp holders, lamps, and receptacles, providing detailed guidelines for their safe and proper installation. While the general prohibition of fluorescent fixtures in closed closets under 410.16 is a key point, understanding the exceptions and specific requirements within this article is essential. Article 410.2 defines various terms related to lighting, which can be helpful in correctly interpreting the code's intent. For instance, understanding the difference between a fixture and a luminaire can clarify which sections of the code apply to a specific installation. Further sections of Article 410 address specific requirements for different types of lighting fixtures, including those used in closets. These requirements often involve clearances, mounting methods, and wiring considerations to minimize fire hazards and electrical shock risks. Regarding the specific prohibition of fluorescent fixtures in closets, it is rooted in the potential for overheating and ignition of flammable materials. Traditional fluorescent fixtures generate heat, and if placed too close to clothing or other combustibles, they can pose a significant fire risk. This is why the NEC places strict limitations on the types of lighting allowed in these confined spaces. Now, let's consider the role of UL listing in mitigating these risks. Underwriters Laboratories, or UL, is a nationally recognized testing laboratory that evaluates products for safety. When a product is UL listed, it means that it has been tested and found to meet specific safety standards. In the context of closet lighting, a UL-listed fixture designed for closet installation would have undergone testing to ensure that it does not pose an unacceptable fire risk when installed in close proximity to clothing and other combustible materials. This testing might include temperature tests, insulation resistance tests, and other evaluations to verify that the fixture operates safely under normal and abnormal conditions. If a fluorescent closet rod is UL listed for closet installation, it typically incorporates features that reduce the risk of overheating, such as thermal protection devices or specific ventilation designs. These features are intended to prevent the fixture from reaching temperatures that could ignite nearby materials. However, it is crucial to verify that the UL listing specifically covers closet installation. A general UL listing for lighting fixtures does not automatically qualify a fixture for closet use. The listing must explicitly state that the fixture is suitable for installation in closed closets or similar enclosed spaces. In addition to the UL listing, the manufacturer's instructions play a critical role in ensuring safe installation. These instructions provide detailed guidance on how to mount the fixture, connect the wiring, and maintain proper clearances. Following the manufacturer's instructions is essential for ensuring that the fixture operates as intended and does not pose a safety hazard. Disregarding the manufacturer's instructions can void the UL listing and create a dangerous situation. Furthermore, it is important to consider the overall design of the closet and the types of materials stored within it. Closets with tightly packed clothing or shelves filled with flammable liquids present a greater fire risk than closets with more open space and less combustible materials. In high-risk closets, it may be prudent to choose lighting fixtures with even greater safety features or to avoid using fluorescent fixtures altogether. As an alternative to fluorescent fixtures, consider using light-emitting diode, or LED, fixtures for closet lighting. LED fixtures generate significantly less heat than fluorescent fixtures and are generally considered safer for use in enclosed spaces. However, even with LED fixtures, it is important to ensure that the fixture is UL listed and installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. In conclusion, when considering a lighted closet rod with a fluorescent bulb, it is essential to prioritize safety and compliance with the NEC. Always verify that the fixture is UL listed for closet installation and follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. If there is any doubt about the safety of the installation, consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that the wiring and fixture placement meet all applicable codes and standards. Let's explore the broader implications of Article 90.1b of the NEC, which touches upon product listings and their coverage of specific installations. Article 90 serves as the introduction to the NEC, outlining its purpose, scope, and enforcement. Within this article, Section 90.1b clarifies a fundamental principle: the NEC doesn't cover everything, and a product's listing doesn't automatically validate its installation in every conceivable location. The core idea behind Article 90.1b is that a product's UL listing or similar certification is only valid for the specific applications and conditions outlined in the listing itself. In other words, just because a product is listed for general use doesn't mean it can be installed anywhere without regard to its intended purpose and limitations. To illustrate this principle, consider a common example: an electrical outlet. An electrical outlet might be UL listed for general use in dry locations. However, that listing doesn't automatically qualify it for installation in a wet location, such as outdoors or in a bathroom shower. To be suitable for wet locations, the outlet would need to be specifically listed for that purpose and have additional features, such as weatherproofing or ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI protection. Similarly, a lighting fixture might be UL listed for general indoor use, but that listing doesn't automatically make it suitable for installation in a hazardous location, such as a paint booth or a gasoline dispensing area. Hazardous locations require specially designed fixtures that are explosion-proof or intrinsically safe to prevent ignition of flammable vapors or gases. Article 90.1b underscores the importance of carefully reviewing the product's listing and instructions to ensure that it is appropriate for the intended application. Installers and inspectors must not assume that a product's listing covers all possible uses. Instead, they must verify that the listing specifically addresses the conditions under which the product will be installed and operated. This principle has significant implications for a wide range of electrical installations, including wiring methods, equipment grounding, and overcurrent protection. For example, a type of electrical cable might be UL listed for general wiring in buildings, but that listing might not allow it to be used in direct burial applications. Direct burial cables require special insulation and jacketing to withstand moisture, chemicals, and physical damage from the surrounding soil. Similarly, an overcurrent protective device, such as a circuit breaker, might be UL listed for a specific interrupting rating. The interrupting rating indicates the maximum amount of fault current that the device can safely interrupt without failing. If the available fault current at the installation location exceeds the device's interrupting rating, the device could fail catastrophically during a fault, posing a serious safety hazard. Article 90.1b also reinforces the importance of following the manufacturer's instructions. The manufacturer's instructions provide detailed guidance on how to install and use the product safely and in accordance with its listing. Disregarding the manufacturer's instructions can void the listing and create a dangerous situation. In addition to the manufacturer's instructions, local codes and regulations may impose additional requirements for electrical installations. It is essential to comply with all applicable codes and regulations to ensure that the installation is safe and legal. In conclusion, Article 90.1b of the NEC highlights the critical principle that a product's listing is only valid for the specific applications and conditions outlined in the listing itself. Installers and inspectors must carefully review the product's listing and instructions to ensure that it is appropriate for the intended use. Compliance with the NEC, the manufacturer's instructions, and local codes and regulations is essential for ensuring safe and reliable electrical installations. Let's examine the practical steps involved in obtaining and interpreting a UL listing file for an electrical product, focusing on how this information can guide safe and compliant installations. The UL listing file, also known as the UL Product IQ database, is a comprehensive resource that provides detailed information about UL listed products. This file contains technical specifications, test results, and installation instructions that are essential for ensuring that the product is used safely and in accordance with its listing. To access the UL listing file, you can visit the UL website or use the UL Product IQ database search tool. This tool allows you to search for products by manufacturer, product category, or UL file number. Once you have located the listing file for the specific product you are interested in, you can download it as a portable document format or PDF document. The listing file typically includes the following information: product description. This section provides a brief overview of the product, including its intended use, features, and limitations. Model numbers. This section lists all of the model numbers covered by the listing. UL standard. This section identifies the UL standard to which the product was tested and certified. Ratings. This section specifies the electrical ratings of the product, such as voltage, current, and power. Installation instructions. This section provides detailed guidance on how to install the product safely and in accordance with its listing. Marking requirements. This section outlines the marking requirements for the product, including the UL symbol, model number, and other relevant information. Conditions of acceptability. This section lists any conditions that must be met for the product to be considered acceptable for use. Once you have obtained the UL listing file, it is important to carefully review it to understand the product's intended use, limitations, and installation requirements. Pay particular attention to the following sections. Product description. Carefully read the product description to ensure that the product is suitable for the intended application. For example, if you are installing a lighting fixture in a wet location, make sure that the product is specifically listed for wet location use. Installation instructions. Follow the installation instructions precisely to ensure that the product is installed safely and in accordance with its listing. Disregarding the installation instructions can void the listing and create a dangerous situation. Conditions of acceptability. Review the conditions of acceptability to ensure that the installation meets all of the requirements for the product to be considered acceptable for use. For example, some products may require specific wiring methods or overcurrent protection devices to be used. In addition to the UL listing file, it is also important to consult the manufacturer's instructions for the product. The manufacturer's instructions provide detailed guidance on how to install, operate, and maintain the product. The manufacturer's instructions may also include information that is not included in the UL listing file, such as troubleshooting tips and maintenance procedures. By carefully reviewing the UL listing file and the manufacturer's instructions, you can ensure that the product is installed safely and in accordance with all applicable codes and standards. This will help to prevent electrical hazards and ensure that the product operates reliably for its intended lifespan. Let's discuss how to determine whether a product is listed for a specific application, a critical aspect of ensuring electrical safety and code compliance. Listing, in the context of electrical products, refers to the process by which a recognized testing laboratory, such as UL, evaluates a product and certifies that it meets specific safety standards. When a product is listed, it bears the listing mark of the testing laboratory, indicating that it has been tested and found to comply with the applicable standards. To determine whether a product is listed for a specific application, you need to examine several sources of information, including the product itself, the UL listing file, and the manufacturer's instructions. Firstly, inspect the product itself for the listing mark of a recognized testing laboratory. The listing mark is typically a symbol or logo that identifies the testing laboratory and indicates that the product has been listed. For example, a UL listed product will bear the UL symbol, which is a stylized UL within a circle. The listing mark may also include additional information such as the product category or the applicable standard. Secondly, consult the UL listing file for the product. The UL listing file, as discussed previously, provides detailed information about the product, including its intended use, limitations, and installation requirements. The listing file will specify the applications for which the product is listed, as well as any restrictions or conditions that apply. Thirdly, review the manufacturer's instructions for the product. The manufacturer's instructions provide detailed guidance on how to install, operate, and maintain the product. The instructions may also include information about the product's listing, such as the specific applications for which it is listed and any relevant warnings or cautions. When examining these sources of information, look for language that explicitly states that the product is listed for the specific application you are considering. For example, if you are installing a lighting fixture in a wet location, look for language that states that the fixture is suitable for wet locations or listed for wet location use. If you are installing a product in a hazardous location, look for language that states that the product is explosion-proof or intrinsically safe. If you cannot find explicit language stating that the product is listed for the specific application you are considering, it is generally best to assume that it is not listed for that application. In such cases, you should consult with a qualified electrician or the manufacturer of the product to determine whether the product is suitable for the intended use. It is important to note that a general listing for a product does not automatically qualify it for all possible applications. The listing is only valid for the specific applications and conditions outlined in a listing file and the manufacturer's instructions. Therefore, it is essential to carefully review all of the available information to ensure that the product is listed for the specific application you are considering. Let's shift our focus to the topic of thermal protection in electrical products, explaining its importance and how it contributes to safety and code compliance. Thermal protection refers to the incorporation of devices or features into electrical products that are designed to prevent overheating and potential fire hazards. These devices or features typically sense the temperature of the product and automatically reduce or interrupt the flow of current if the temperature exceeds a safe limit. Thermal protection is particularly important in products that generate heat during normal operations, such as lighting fixtures, motors, transformers, and appliances. Overheating in these products can occur due to a variety of factors, including overloading, short circuits, block ventilation, and component failures. Without thermal protection, overheating can lead to insulation breakdown, component damage, and even fire. There are several types of thermal protection devices commonly used in electrical products, including thermal cutouts. These devices are designed to permanently interrupt the flow of current when the temperature exceeds a predetermined limit. Thermal cutouts are typically used in products where overheating is likely to cause catastrophic damage. Thermal protectors. These devices are designed to automatically reset after the temperature has cooled down to a safe level. Thermal protectors are typically used in products where overheating is less likely to cause permanent damage. Positive temperature coefficient, or PTC, resistors. These devices increase their resistance as the temperature increases, which reduces the flow of current and helps to prevent overheating. PTC resistors are often used in lighting fixtures and motor windings. In lighting fixtures, thermal protection is particularly important because of the potential for flammable materials to be located in close proximity to the fixture. For example, a recessed lighting fixture installed in an insulated ceiling can easily overheat if the insulation is placed too close to the fixture. Thermal protection devices in the fixture can prevent this overheating by reducing or interrupting the flow of current if the temperature exceeds a safe limit. In motors, thermal protection is essential to prevent damage to the motor windings. Overloading or stalling a motor can cause the windings to overheat, which can lead to insulation breakdown and motor failure. Thermal protection devices in the motor can prevent this overheating by reducing or interrupting the flow of current if the temperature exceeds a safe limit. When evaluating an electrical product for safety and code compliance, it is important to look for evidence of thermal protection. This evidence may include thermal cutouts, thermal protectors, or PTC resistors. The presence of these devices indicates that the product has been designed to prevent overheating and potential fire hazards. In addition to the presence of thermal protection devices, it is also important to ensure that the product is properly installed and maintained. Proper installation includes ensuring that the product has adequate ventilation and that it is not overloaded. Proper maintenance includes regularly cleaning the product and replacing any worn or damaged components. By taking these steps, you can help to ensure that the product operates safely and reliably for its intended lifespan. Let's move on to the topic of storage spaces and the NEC requirements for electrical installations in these areas. The NEC defines a storage space as an area used primarily for the storage of materials. This definition encompasses a wide range of spaces, including closets, attics, basements, garages, and warehouses. The NEC imposes specific requirements for electrical installations and storage spaces to minimize the risk of fire and electrical shock. These requirements are based on the potential for combustible materials to be present in storage spaces and the increased risk of damage to electrical wiring and equipment. One of the key requirements for storage spaces is the proper selection and installation of lighting fixtures. As discussed previously, the NEC restricts the types of lighting fixtures that can be installed in closed closets to minimize the risk of fire. Similar restrictions apply to other storage spaces where combustible materials are present. In general, lighting fixtures installed in storage spaces must be enclosed and protected from physical damage. The enclosures must be designed to prevent the escape of sparks or hot metal that could ignite nearby combustible materials. The fixtures must also be installed in a way that minimizes the risk of damage from stored materials. Another important requirement for storage spaces is the proper protection of electrical wiring. Wiring in storage spaces must be protected from physical damage by conduit or other approved means. The wiring must also be supported and secured to prevent it from sagging or coming into contact with stored materials. In addition, the NEC requires that all electrical outlets in storage spaces be ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, protected. GFCI protection is designed to prevent electrical shock by detecting small imbalances in the electrical current and automatically interrupting the circuit. GFCI protection is particularly important in storage spaces where moisture may be present, such as basements and garages. The NEC also addresses the issue of temporary wiring in storage spaces. Temporary wiring is wiring that is not intended to be permanent, such as extension cords and flexible cords. The NEC restricts the use of temporary wiring in storage spaces to minimize the risk of fire and electrical shock. In general, temporary wiring is not permitted to be used as a substitute for permanent wiring. It is only permitted to be used for temporary purposes, such as during construction or remodeling. When temporary wiring is used in storage spaces, it must be protected from physical damage and secured to prevent it from sagging or coming into contact with stored materials. It must also be disconnected when not in use. In addition to these specific requirements, the NEC also emphasizes the importance of good housekeeping in storage spaces. Combustible material should be stored away from electrical wiring and equipment. The electrical panels and other electrical equipment should be kept clear of obstructions. By following these guidelines, you can help to ensure that storage spaces are safe and free from electrical hazards. In conclusion, the NEC imposes specific requirements for electrical installations in storage spaces to minimize the risk of fire and electrical shock. These requirements cover the selection and installation of lighting fixtures, the protection of electrical wiring, and the use of temporary wiring. By complying with these requirements and practicing good housekeeping, you can help to ensure that storage spaces are safe and free from electrical hazards. Let's discuss the process of obtaining a UL listing file for a specific product, and what details to pay close attention to within that document. Acquiring and understanding the UL listing file is paramount for ensuring that an electrical product is used safely and in compliance with relevant standards. The UL listing file, officially known as the UL Product IQ database, is a comprehensive repository of information on products that have been tested and certified by Underwriters Laboratories, or UL. To initiate the process of obtaining a UL listing file, the first step is to visit the UL website. Once on the site, navigate to the section dedicated to Product IQ. This section typically offers a search tool or database where you can input specific product details to locate the corresponding listing file. There are several ways to search for a product within the UL Product IQ database. You can search by the manufacturer's name, the product category, or, most effectively, the UL file number. If you have the UL file number, this will lead you directly to the listing file for that specific product. Once you've initiated the search, the UL Product IQ database will present you with a list of search results. Carefully examine the results to ensure that you select the correct product listing. Verify that the product name, model number, and manufacturer match the product you are researching. Once you've identified the correct listing, you can typically download the listing file in a portable document format, or PDF. The PDF document contains all the relevant information about the product's listing, including its intended use, ratings, limitations, and installation instructions. Now let's delve into the crucial details to focus on within the UL listing file. Product description. The product description provides a general overview of the product, outlining its intended application and key features. Carefully review this section to confirm that the product is suitable for your intended use. Model numbers. The model numbers section lists all the specific model numbers that are covered by the listing. Verify that the model number of the product you are using is included in this list. UL standard. The UL standard section identifies the specific UL standard to which the product was tested and certified. Understanding the UL standard can provide valuable insights into the product's safety and performance characteristics. Ratings. The ratings section specifies the electrical ratings of the product, such as voltage, current, and power. Ensure that the product's ratings are compatible with your electrical system. Installation instructions. The installation instructions section provides detailed guidance on how to install the product safely and in accordance with its listing. Carefully follow these instructions to prevent electrical hazards and ensure proper operation. Marking requirements. The marking requirements section outlines the markings that are required to be present on the product. These markings typically include the UL symbol, the model number, and other relevant information. Conditions of acceptability. The conditions of acceptability section lists any specific conditions that must be met for the product to be considered acceptable for use. These conditions may relate to wiring methods, overcurrent protection, or other factors. By carefully examining these details within the UL listing file, you can ensure that you have a thorough understanding of the product's capabilities, limitations, and installation requirements. This knowledge will empower you to use the product safely and in compliance with all applicable codes and standards. Let's transition to the topic of manufacturer's instructions and their significance in ensuring safe and code-compliant electrical installations. Manufacturer's instructions are an indispensable resource that provides detailed guidance on how to install, operate, and maintain an electrical product safely and effectively. These instructions are typically included with the product at the time of purchase, and they may also be available on the manufacturer's website. The NEC emphasizes the importance of following manufacturer's instructions in Article 110.3b, which states that listed or labeled equipment shall be installed and used in accordance with any instructions included in the listing or labeling. This requirement underscores the fact that manufacturer's instructions are an integral part of the product's listing and must be followed to ensure code compliance and safety. Manufacturer's instructions typically cover a wide range of topics, including installation procedures, wiring diagrams, operating instructions, maintenance procedures, and safety precautions. The level of detail provided in the instructions may vary depending on the complexity of the product. However, all manufacturer's instructions should provide sufficient information to enable a qualified person to install, operate, and maintain the product safely and in accordance with its intended use. During the installation process, manufacturer's instructions should be consulted at every stage, from unpacking the product to making the final connections. The instructions will provide guidance on the proper mounting methods, wiring techniques, and grounding procedures. They may also specify the required tools and materials. It is essential to follow the manufacturer's instructions precisely to ensure that the product is installed correctly and that it will operate safely and reliably. During the operation of an electrical product, manufacturer's instructions should be consulted to ensure that the product is used in accordance with its intended purpose and within its specified limitations. The instructions may provide guidance on how to adjust the product's settings, troubleshoot common problems, and perform routine maintenance. It is important to heed any warnings or cautions provided in the manufacturer's instructions to prevent electrical hazards and ensure the product's longevity. Regular maintenance is essential for maintaining the safety and performance of electrical products. Manufacturer's instructions will typically outline the recommended maintenance procedures, such as cleaning, lubricating, and inspecting components. Following these procedures can help to prevent breakdowns, extend the product's lifespan, and ensure that it continues to operate safely. In addition to providing guidance on installation, operation, and maintenance, manufacturers' instructions also highlight important safety precautions. These precautions may relate to electrical shock hazards, fire hazards, or other potential risks. It is crucial to read and understand these safety precautions before working with an electrical product.